have you ever wondered which resources are actually worth to invest and are actually helpful for nurse practitioner students, new grad nurse practitioners, and experienced nurse practitioners like me? In this episode, I'm going to talk about 4 resources that have been helpful for the last 10 years and also are still helpful to me as an experienced nurse practitioner. Hey, before we're gonna get into today's topic, I just want to mention that we are giving out free online lesson. It's about time management. We all are very busy every day, but we want to make sure that we have time to take care of ourselves. Because when we are too stressed out, then we can't really take care of other people, patients, or even our loved ones. So it's very important to take care of ourselves, but I think the problem is we don't have time. But in this lesson, I'm going to talk about 7 secrets to make time for things you love so you can rejuvenate and be a better person, better nurse practitioner, better healthcare professional. How to access this online lesson is you can go to usa.jnpproject.com/free lesson. Again, usa.jnpproject.com/free lesson. And you can get access to this free lesson. All right, let's get back to today's topic. Okay, so today's topic is resources that nurse practitioner students, new grad nurse practitioners, and even seasoned nurse practitioners must have. So during nurse practitioner program, I had to have multiple textbooks, but honestly, none of them were helpful to the point that I hung on to for like years and years after I graduate. So, I borrowed or I rented textbooks, and I just for 3 months or for the semester, or I bought used books and then I sold it after I finished using the textbook after the semester. So I didn't think that those textbooks were worth to pay full price, but there are some resources that I've been using for the last 10 years or so after I graduate from nurse practitioner school and still use it till this day. So I'm going to share with you 4 resources that I actually use in my clinical practice and I always recommend to my nurse practitioner students. First resource is Up to Date. I mean, you might know about the name, but you might not. So I'm going to mention that. My colleague physicians use that too. My colleague nurse practitioner use that too, and I use it almost every day. This is a website that has updated information, most updated information about how to diagnose conditions, how to manage conditions, and then it has all the information that you need to know about how to practice as a nurse practitioner or physicians or as clinicians. It's super easy to read. You can search certain words and it will come up. I remember as a new grad nurse practitioner, I was working at OB/GYN private office, and every day I looked like I was going on a day trip or something because I was carrying almost like I was carrying a huge bag with a bunch of books, like super heavy. And I think because I almost, dislocated my shoulder because it was so heavy. At one point I was using like a little, carry-on suitcase or something because it was so heavy. But because, you don't know what kind of cases that you're going to see that for that day. And as a new grad nurse practitioner, I didn't know much. So I had to be prepared. Like I wanted to make sure I have book for certain disease or conditions. I have book for another conditions. And so I was carrying different reference books. But, one, it was heavy to carry. And then for the up-to-date, you can access with computer or even with your phone. So all you need is maybe just an iPad or, phone to look it up, or you can have a small laptop. That's all you need instead of the bunch of heavy books like I used to carry. Also, it's super easy to look up things the exact information that you're looking for books. You look at the index and you're hoping that you're going to find the information, and you read through and you realize that it doesn't answer your question, your specific question, and you have to look for the information, and it takes forever. And as a nurse practitioner student or new grad nurse practitioner, it takes forever to see one case. Like patients waiting for you to look things up. But it just takes a long time, and you're just like, oh my God. And, as I was working at one of the busiest OB/GYN office in Hawaii, I believe. This is actually was told by a drug rep. So I'm not just saying that, but I know because drug rep told me that you guys are one of the busiest clinic. But I was seeing so many patients. I saw 18 patients for half a day, 4 hours and something like that. It was so crazy busy. But I was a new grad nurse practitioner. There's so many things that I didn't know, but I want to make sure that I do the right thing for each patient. So I had to go, after I talk to patient, I say, okay, why don't you get dressed, and then I'll come back. And then I kind of act cool, but as soon as I closed the door, I was running back to to my office, and I was looking up on the conditions, and I was like, oh my God, okay, so what kind of test should I order, or what kind of medication should I give, when should I follow up, and all those information. With the books, it might be hard to look for, but with the up-to-date website or app, you can just type it, and then boom, it will show you. And the website is so easy to read, and so you can get those information right away instead of first digging in different books and see if they have the information, and then you have to read through and see if you can find the answers. But it will save so much time. So I love that. Also, as you can see on the name, from the name of the website, Up to Date, it has up-to-date information about different guidelines and stuff like that. So you can, you can be confident that the information is up to date. For those books, if they are 10 years old or something like that, who knows, those information on the books might have been accurate back then, but you don't know if the guidelines have changed. Maybe new evidence came, and then they no longer recommend those treatments. But you think that it is recommended because it's on the books, published books. But, as a clinician or provider, you are obligated to provide most updated evidence-based practice to our patients. So up to date, you can treat patients with confidence that you are practicing based on up-to-date information. So that's another wonderful thing about the website. It's $579 per year for practicing nurse practitioners. But if you are a student, you get 60% or 61% discount. So I know it sounds a lot still. When I was a student, when I was a nurse practitioner student, or even as a new grad nurse practitioner, I thought that was pricey. I heard about it, and my classmate was using Up to Date, but I thought, oh, that seems so pricey. So I didn't start using it until I started working with a second employer, who's my current employer, because my employer, the health center, give access to all the employees or all the providers for the up-to-date. So I had free access to the website through the employer. And I was amazed how useful it is. And I wish I knew how valuable the membership is. And I should have become a student member back then, because it could have saved a lot of time for me as a student. So I think it's totally worth it to get membership, because during the clinical you can bring your own little laptop or iPad or even your cell phone and look things up really quickly. So instead of carrying old books, like me, it's really helpful, and I think it saves so much time for you, so much stress. So I think it's worth it. If you are nurse practitioner looking for a job, I would recommend to maybe suggest to your potential future employer, hey, would you consider covering membership for up to date, or do you provide access to up to date? It might be easier to negotiate with that comparing to like asking them to raise your wage. But if you can get both, then that would be wonderful. But that's one thing that you might be able to ask. Can I get access to up to date? Okay, the second resource that I would recommend is Fitzpatrick Colored Atlas and Synopsis of Clinical Dermatology. I know it's a long name, but basically it's Fitzpatrick Clinical Dermatology. It does look new because I just got it, because my the old book that I had literally fell apart because I used it so much that this glue came off and the book was no longer a book. It was just like papers all over. So I just recently to get another one, and so this is my second book. Now I have a new version, but I've been using this for like 10 years or so, and I still use it to this day, and I believe I'm gonna continue using it until I stop working as a nurse practitioner. Hopefully they're gonna release new versions until then. But the thing that I love about this book is it has so many pictures. I can't show you details about the inside, but it has so many wonderful color pictures. And, for when you're diagnosing skin conditions, usually, mostly it diagnosed based on inspection, meaning that what you're looking at, you diagnose based on that. So it's very important to have good pictures to compare to and see, yeah, it looks like condyloma, or it looks like herpes, or, things like that. So these great pictures have been very, very, very helpful. I know some other books have a little bit of pictures here and there, or Up to Date has some pictures, but the number of pictures are limited for those resources, and I've looked at different resources, and this has been the most helpful book for dermatology. I work in primary care, so I'm not specialized to dermatology, but I still see a lot of dermatological conditions because patients feel more comfortable to talk to me, or they can't get into dermatology appointments, and they're wanting to get something while they're waiting for their appointments with the dermatologists. And oftentimes they get better and then they just cancel the dermatology appointment, and who else? But I think one thing is that it has a lot of great pictures, and I haven't seen any other resources that has this many wonderful, easy to see pictures. Another thing that is great about this book is you can show this to patients. Like oftentimes let's say patient is concerned about herpes, and but I can tell like, oh, actually it doesn't look like that. And I can show pictures to patients to say, hey, herpes usually look like this, and then what you have doesn't look like that. And patient can understand their condition better with that explanation and actual pictures that they can look at. So I use it for patient education often. Also, another thing that I love about this is probably the best thing that I love about this book. Those colorful pictures, they describe the conditions like erythematous, hyperkeratonic, papules, or something like that. And as a nurse practitioner, I mean, we can take picture and save it to the patient chart, but we also have to describe what we're looking at. For the physical exam section, in the patient's chart, we have to document what we saw. And that's the thing that I really struggle with for dermatology. I know that while I'm looking at and then comparing the picture, I'm like, okay, this looks like herpes, or this looks like this, or words, or something like that, or this looks like I can't think of the name, but psoriasis. But what I struggle with the most is I know what I'm looking at. This looks very similar, but I don't know how to describe it. And I know a lot of providers, a lot of students struggle with this also. But with this book, it shows a picture and describe what this condition, and describe what this condition is, or what this condition, the description of this condition. So I imitate how they describe because they look the same. And I can imitate how they describe. And that has been very, very helpful. So I would highly recommend to get, during the nurse practitioner program, because whether you are in different practices, there's a good chance that you have to treat dermatological conditions. Especially if you're working in, urgent care, primary care setting, and even for women's health practices, patients feel more comfortable, or they're like, oh, I had this on my breast and I want to show it to my primary care physician. So would you take a look? And I can't say no. So I just say, okay, I'll take a look. Maybe we can try something. But if it doesn't get better, you can go back to your primary care and then it get better, and then they don't have to see primary care, kind of thing. But so even if you are not in dermatology practice, there's a good chance that you encounter dermatological conditions. So I think it's totally worth to get this book. This book is $60, but it's worth it. I used the old book for like 10 years and I used it so often. And it helped me a lot. So I think $60 is a killer deal. I think it's worth to invest. Okay, another book that I use regularly is this book. It's called EMRA Antibiotic Guideline. This is the book. And if you want to look at the exact name of the book, I will put the description in. I will put the name of the books that I'm explaining in the description on the YouTube and podcast. But this book, EMRA Antibiotic Guideline, this is about antibiotic treatment for common conditions. I get to know this book because I believe my student told me. Student was using it and I was like, oh, what is that? And I take a look and I was like, wow, this is so helpful. So this book, what I love about this book is it tells you what to prescribe for antibiotic treatment within a second, at a glance. Because like when you look at like UpToDate or other resources, it gives you the same information, but it's just the informations are scattered. Like there is a section about how many dosages, and then there's a section about the duration of the treatment, And then there's section about special population, like patients who are allergic to penicillins and stuff. But you have to read the whole page, and it takes a while. But with this book, it tells you, like, for otitis media, or, like, you know, for UTI, or for common conditions that you see in urgent care, ER, or primary care. It just say, okay, whatever it is, augmentin twice a day for 10 days, you know, boom. Instead of you look for, okay, what's the dosage? Okay, what's the duration? Okay, what about the patient is allergic to penicillin? You have to read all of them. But with this book, it just tells you, this treatment, 500 milligram twice a day for 5 days. Boom. If for penicillin allergic patient, same thing, azithromycin, you know, 500 milligram, you know, or, you know, once a day for this. I'm just making up for this regimen, but, you know, for 5 days, boom. It tells you right away, so you don't have to read it. It gives you answer within a second, and it's so helpful because for, you know, anybody who, for nurse practitioner student, new grad nurse practitioner, practicing nurse practitioner, a seasoned nurse practitioner, we are so busy. We need to get that information right away. And this book saves you a lot of time. Also, this is very, very light. It's small. You can put it in your pocket and you can walk around with this. And it's only $27. So it's very helpful. I recommend this to all my nurse practitioner students because it's very, very useful. If you are getting into women's health, if you're interested in working in women's health, I will recommend to invest in this book called Contraceptive Technology. I didn't bring the book from my office, so I don't have the actual book to show it to you. But again, I'm going to write down the name in the description for the YouTube and then also podcast. But Contraceptive Technology is the go-to book for whoever practice in women's health or OBGYN. I know my friend OBGYN told me that she got the book for as a gift for graduating medical school because she was getting into OBGYN residency. So I forgot she bought it for herself or she got it, but it was and then she, you know, OBGYN physicians also use that book. Nurse practitioners use the book too. And so as you can tell from the title, it's all about birth control. It has more also, but it mainly talks about birth control, everything about birth controls. And you know, with the up-to-date, you can get some information, but it's not in-depth. But if you're getting into women's health field, you need to know a little bit more about birth controls, obviously. So it covers different birth controls, like, you know, of course, birth control pills, you know, hormone shots or implants or IUDs and different methods. And it talks about special consideration for different situations, like patients who have migraines or patients who have PMS or patients who have painful periods. It talks about so many different things about birth control. So it's like a Bible for people who work in women's health. And if you are a nurse practitioner student who know that you want to get into women's health, just get it already because you're going to get it anyway. So I would recommend to get it. It's really thick. It's not that heavy, but it's 900 pages and $109. It seems a lot, but it's worth it. I've used my book for almost 10 years, and it's so helpful. I always recommend to my students who, if they are interested in women's health. And I also recommend to attend their conferences. So Contraceptive Technologies have, I think, biannual conferences. I've attended online conferences and they've been very, very helpful. if you attend, I want to attend the physical conference someday, but you can connect with your colleagues all over the United States and make connections and stuff like that. If you are nurse practitioner students, maybe you can attend that and make connections. But their conferences are amazing. So I would recommend to attend their conferences also. But get the book if you are interested in women's health. It's completely worth it. Now, for providers, nurse practitioners who work in women's health, we usually practice based on ACOG guideline. So ACOG stands for American College of Obstetricians and Gynecology. And you can be a member and access to their website and access to their guidelines. I haven't become a member yet because the membership is pretty pricey. And I asked my colleagues to just print out a guideline or two, or if I want to look at the actual guideline, because everything what we do in women's health is based on their guidelines. But I don't know if it's worth to become a member because it's pretty pricey. You can also ask, if you're a nurse practitioner student, you can ask your preceptor if they can print out specific guideline for you. Like if you want to get guideline for polycystic ovarian syndrome or, abnormal uterine bleeding, maybe they can do that for you. But I don't know if it's worth it to become a member because it's expensive. But I've mentioned 4 resources that nurse practitioners must have, especially first 3. Is very general references that if you work in especially primary care or, pretty much any area, it's very helpful. So Up to Date, Fitzpatricks, clinical dermatology, EMRA, antibiotic guideline. And then I also recommend Contraceptive technology book if you're into women's health. I would recommend these resources. They are completely worth to invest. Let me know if you use any other useful resources. I would love to know. Maybe I'm gonna start using your recommended references. But let me know, references or resources that have been helpful for you in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. All right. See you in the next episode. Aloha.